Imagine Shurpanaka being a single mother and we talking about Shurpanaka from that point of view. We know only Shurpanaka as a more or less a comical, tragic figure. So Vyasa is the greatest writer. He not only wrote Bharata, but all the Ashtadasha Puranas and all the Upapuranas, which are also 18. He wrote all the major Puranic literature we have is written by Vyasa. They've been extraordinarily brave, cool, very, very intelligent, sensible in the way they brought up their kids. I am the cause of his death. I provoked him. He couldn't control his attraction towards me. That's the reason he's dead now. Sabhaya Namaha. I'm sorry I won't be able to speak in Malayalam because my mother tongue is Telugu and I can only understand a smatter of Malayalam at the most. So you will have to excuse me for speaking in English. Thank you once again for inviting me here to participate in this grand gala occasion. I'm terribly impressed with what's happening for the past 2 days. And I'm very happy to be here because this is my first visit to Thiruvananthapuram. And I'm very happy I'm here. Especially I would like to thank Prabha ji. We are all big fans of his poetry. I read him in both in English and Telugu. So I love his poetry. I love a lot of Malayalam literature actually. I've read O.V. Vijayan, M.T., Sachidanandan, Ramanunni. I've read most of these people in English. So I am quite conversations with Malayalam literature in that sense. I've also attended some programs in Tiruvur on Tunjan Festival. I've been invited as a guest by MTG for at least 3 seminars there. So, and I'm very happy. Once again, I'm in Kerala, and first time I'm in Thiruvananthapuram, and I'm presenting one particular aspect of women's literature on this occasion. So usually people ask me whenever I am invited anywhere, I am deeply associated with the women literature and probably more specifically feminist literature. So when I was asked to speak about that, I was just wondering what is that aspect of feminist literature which is not usually highlighted. And if I start speaking about women, feminist writers, feminist poetry, feminist short story in Telugu literature, most of it will not make much sense to you, mainly because you would not have read them. When I was combining these two, what is one aspect which is very interesting, very much prevalent even in contemporary society, with which all Indians can identify, which any Indian woman would know, not just women, I mean both men and women would know. That particular aspect would be a single mother, which is very, very much prevalent in India today. Though percentage-wise, if you see, compared to other nations, it may be less. We have 4.5 single mothers right now in India. If you compare it with 27% in US, probably it's definitely less. But in India's population, 4.5 is not such a small figure. And when I was thinking of this aspect, I thought, is this something that is happening only now? It is a modern phenomena. No, definitely not. This has been happening from times immemorial. Women as single parents bringing up their children is not something that is happening only in modern age. It has been prevalent since, once you look at our Itihasas, you know that it has been happening all the time. But what is the difference? If there is a difference, what are the differences between those times and these times? And also, how did women feel of those period feel, and how are they feeling now? When you think of this comparatively, maybe you'll get some more highlights or insights into what's happening in the women's participation in society. So this is what compelled me to take up this subject, how single mothers in the Itihasas, in mythology. So because the names I am going to mention, you all would know. If I am talking about Telugu literature, you may not know, but Itihasa is something everybody knows. everyone knows our mythology. So it's easier for you to identify what I'm talking about, since I'll be talking about the classical literature, which most of you are familiar with. So this is what I question myself. Usually, how is a single mother defined? If you think of our own the legal system, how they are defined is, a single mother in India defined as a woman who raises her children alone without the support of a partner due to circumstances like divorce, separation, widowhood, or by choice. This is essentially the legal definition. So what does it mean is, a single mother is someone who brings up her children without a partner, where the father is absent. So this absenteeism of a father, when does it happen? How does it happen? So then I went back to our mythology. I was wondering, when did this happen? Whether now or in the past. The reasons would be more or less the same. One, death. When the father is dead, obviously, it's a single mother. Or abandonment. When the father leaves the mother and goes away, then again she's a single mother. When now we have a divorce. At that point of time there were no divorce, but they had duty callings. When the father is away, like in a war or some other major duties of his, because of which he cannot be a regular parent. That could also be a reason. And there could also be some unforeseen circumstances, especially in mythology. You have plenty of unforeseen circumstances there. For these four reasons, we can see in myth also that there is a single mother, whom most of these mothers I'm talking about are extremely familiar for you. If you know anything about our myths, you will identify with all these names. When I say death, whom do we think of in our Ramayanas and Mahabharatas? In Mahabharata, Kunti, Uttara, Satyavati, these three had to bring up their children because of the deaths of their respective husbands. And also in Ramayana, you have Shurpanaka. Imagine Shurpanaka being a single mother, and we talking about Shurpanaka from that point of view. We know only Shurpanaka as a more or less a comical, tragic figure in Ramayana. But we know that she is a single mother. She became a single mother because of her brother. Her brother Ravana killed her husband in a war where they were on opposing sides. Because her brother killed her husband, she had to bring up her, Shambhu Kumar is her son's name, she had to bring up her son. So even Shurpanaka will qualify as a single parent, single mother in Ramayana. Though this is another aspect of hers which is not usually noted in mythology. Because when we are talking about mythologies, we simply talk about the roles they played in an important event. When I talk about Kunti, we are more concerned with Pandavas than Kunti. We are more bothered about Karna than Kunti. But if I look at it from Kunti's point of view, what were her struggles? How did she manage to bring up 5 kids? Not all of them were her kids anyway. 3 are hers and 2 are Madri's. But still, she managed to bring up all of them, and how she was one of the main reasons of the Kurukshetra war. So these are all denote how, as a single mother, her perspective affected the behavior and the consequences of the Kuru dynasty. So you can look at Kunti. Abandonment, well, I'll go in detail about Kunti later. Abandonment, we have 2 classic figures, Shakuntala and Sita. Actually, there is one more character called Manasa Devi. Manasa Devi puja is something people do. That mantra is something you do when you are doing some pujas. That Manasa Devi's story also comes in Devi Bhagavatam. So we have 3 very major characters. Shakuntala, Dushyanta, everybody knows Kalidas's Vijnana Shakuntalam. So we have Shakuntala there, and we also have our most revered heroine of myths, Sita. Abandonment. Because of abandonment, she had to bring up her 2 kids. Before going into details, I am just giving you the gist, what will consist in this paper. And there are others. Duty callings. The husband goes away on duty. He had only a brief relationship with that wife. After that, he totally forgets about her. He does not actually abandon her like Dushyanta or Rama, but he simply goes away because he is busy. Once he is busy, this lady has to bring up her kids. Very good example for that is Subhadra. Both Arjun's Arjuna's wives, Subhadra and Chitrangada. With both of them, he had a brief relationship. Then they got sons, and then he went away because he's busy. Next, this fellow is always in Hastinapur or in the forest, and Subhadra is always in Dwaraka. She lives in Dwaraka. And we also have Hidimbi. Hidimbi is, most of us, you may be knowing, Bhima's second wife, and she had a son, Ghatotkacha. And when are these sons called? And Chitrangada, another wife of Arjuna, when Arjuna was on a pilgrimage. He's supposed to be on a pilgrimage and he marries 3 girls and comes back. Who does that on a pilgrimage? Only Arjuna can do and get away with it. He is supposed to go on a pilgrimage because of some ritual in the country, and that's a different story altogether. He goes and first marries Uluchi, then marries Chitrangada, then marries Subhadra, and then comes back. And Bhima is in a forest and he mates with Hidimba, she's a Rakshas, and there's a son there. And Chitrangada has a son called Babruvahana. And Subhadra has the most famous son, young hero of Kurukshetra, Abhimanyu. But in the bringing up these kids, the fathers have absolutely no place. They have no idea how the kids are being brought up. They don't bother to go there and see how they're being brought up. But when are they recalled? The only moment they recall that they have sons is when they have the Kurukshetra war. War demands a lot of heroes. War needs heroes. They need young blood. That is when Abhimanyu is recalled, Babruvahana is recalled, and Ghatotkacha is recalled. That is when all these sons who hardly had any relationship with the father have to enter, and all 3 of them die. All 3 are dead in the Kurukshetra war. So this mothers, till they were 16 or 18, the mothers are bringing them up, and they're giving them away to their husbands, the fathers, who have always been absentees in their lives. But now they have been recalled, and so the sons go and immediately they fight for their country, they fight for their fathers and fathers' cousins and everybody else for the Kuru Vamsha, and then all 3 of them die in the process. And they are some of the greatest warriors in Kurukshetra war, Abhimanyu, Ghatotkacha and Babruvahana. So that sort of a thing where duty means that a father cannot be a father. He cannot do his duties as a father. All these reasons may be true, they may be real, they may be logical, they are rational, definitely. But here, if I look at it from the point of view of Subhadra, or Chitrangada, or Hidimba, I have to worry what they had to face while they were bringing up these kids. What are the times when they needed a father, and they didn't have a father present, a present father. Though they had a father in theoretical sense, they didn't have him present there. So if I look at myths from the point of view of the single woman who had to bring up their kids without the cooperation or the help or the advice of a father, we see how great these women were, how they managed to be both fathers and mothers to their kids, to bring them up so well that these boys excelled in whatever they did. So that is the sort of single mothers we are talking about in mythologies. They've been extraordinarily brave, cool, very, very intelligent, sensible in the way they brought up their kids. So this is where you have the duty callings. But there is one lady called Jabala, whose story comes in Chandogya Upanishad, where this lady, her name is Jabala, and she has a son who is called Jabali. You may have heard him from Ramayana. He's a very popular character in Ramayana because he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God. He keeps questioning Rama all the time. Who is God? What is God? Why these rituals? He is Nastika, as we would call now. So Charvaka Matam, it is called Charvaka. His Matam is called Charvaka Matam. So this gentleman, he had no father. And he asked his mother, how come I don't have a father? She says, when I was young, I was roaming around. I had lots of relationships. I have no idea who your father is. That is the straightforward answer Jabala gives to her son, Jabali. But Jabali is inquisitive. He wants to learn things. So he goes to Gautam Rishi and asks him, can you teach me? I want to be your student. I want to learn a lot. I need jnana. Then Gautam Rishi said, okay, I'll teach you. Who are your parents? Where do you come from? That is the first question anybody would ask. Where are you from? Who is your father? Who is your mother? He says, I have a mother. She is called Javala. I'm not sure about a father because my mother herself is not sure who my parent is, my father is. And he expects Gautama Rishi to get angry and said, I am not going to teach you anything, get lost. But Gautama Rishi does not say that. He congratulates the boy and he says, Brahman is one who speaks the truth. You have spoken the truth. You have been honest. Your mother has been honest to you, and you are being honest to me. So I'll take you as my student. That's how Jabali enters Gautama Rishi's coterie. He learns a lot from him, and he becomes a great Maharshi. He himself has written another Upanishad called Jabali Upanishad. So there is one mother who doesn't even know who the parent of her son is. She is probably the one single significant case in mythology. And she did not even feel sorry about it. She did not feel that she is morally compelled to hide it. She didn't want to be secretive about it. She told everyone, including her own son. So that is one case. Another case, a different case, when we see it. So after Jabali, then you have those who actually built the Kuru Vamsha, Satyavati and Ganga. Ganga, most of you know, Ganga came into onto the earth. To just give, initially she came onto the earth to give birth to 8 Vasus. We have Ashtavasulu. Among them, all the Ashtavasus were condemned by Agastya to go and be born as human beings. They didn't like it. They were gods. They said that we don't want to stay on the land. We want to come back immediately. Okay, it's a curse, so you can't take it back. But we want to stay only for a short time there. Then Agastya tells them, okay, you be born to Ganga, and she'll immediately throw into the water, and you come back. So Ganga comes down, she marries Shantanu, who falls in love with her. And after marrying Shantanu, her one condition is, don't ask me what I'm going to do to the kids as soon as they're born. He says, okay, initially he says, okay, because he's very much enchanted with her, he wants to marry her. So they get married. The first 7 sons, the moment the child is born, she throws them into Ganga, her river. And they immediately go back to their celestial world. The 8th son, she's about to throw, but he stops. Shantanu said, I am too unhappy with this. Up to 7, I kept quiet. But why do you want to throw everyone? Give me at least one son. Let me bring up at least one son. She says, you have abandoned me. This is not what our agreement was. I told you point blank that you should not ask me any question of what I do with my kids. You are questioning me. I won't stay with you any longer. I am going away. She takes the kid, but she doesn't kill him. She takes him to her own world. His name is Devavrata. She names him Devavrata. She teaches him everything. And the way she teaches him, he learns Vedas from Vasishta, and war rules from Parashurama, and Rajaniti from Brihaspati. The best teachers in their respective fields. He learns everything from there. And then she brings him at the age of 16. She brings him back and gives him to Shantanu and says, he has got a role to play in your life. So you take him at 16. She brought him up so well. You all know who Devavrata is. I don't think I have to tell you. He is the sole cause Kuru dynasty was what it was at the end. So this Devavrata is none other than Bhishma. So this Bhishma, born to Ganga, was the only child she brought up for 16 years because she didn't want to stay in this world. She wanted to take him somewhere, and she taught him everything she knew, everything from great sages, and then brought him back here. And without that Bhishma, there is no Mahabharata. So as a single parent, Ganga's greatest achievement was she nurtured a Bhishma. Later he became Bhishma, he was Devavrata. Later he became, after Satyavati entered, she became Bhima. Satyavati is the first character, mother who brought up her children after the death of her husband Shantanu. Shantanu dies and Satyavati is struggling with 2 kids who are no-gooders, absolutely useless fellows. So she had to wait for them, and they also die anyway. And you know the story of once they died, what she had to do, she needed her the Kuru Vamsha to stabilize. How could she do that? She had only daughters-in-law, no sons. This is the greatest test a mother had to face because she had no other support. She is a woman, her daughters-in-law are alive, sons are gone, and she doesn't know where her Vamsha is going to end. She needed that Vamsha to stabilize. So what does she do now? She uses all her brains. Satyavati is the most intelligent of the Mahabharata women. She uses her brains, and then she says that it doesn't matter. A woman can mate with her brother-in-law. And who is the brother-in-law? The great sage Vyasa himself. Satyavati first married Parashara. Their son was Vyasa. He was then called Krishnadvaipayana. So she had another son by another husband already. And what she did was she called that son. She said, you see, I am the only one left here. My husband is gone. My sons are gone. And I got you, or in a way, you said unethically, from Parashara. So you are the only son left, and you have to listen to me. He says, what do I do, Amma? Then she said, you have to mate with your brother's wives, so that this Vamsha will stay. I have this Vamsha to progeny is very, very important. So I need you to do that. But this Krishnadvaipayana is a very, very ugly looking guy, Vyasa Maharshi. If you go to Anantapadmanabha Swami, you see Vyasa and Ashwatthama too. Only yesterday I was seeing Vyasa in Anantapadmanabha Swami temple. So Vyasa is the greatest writer. He not only wrote Bharata, but all the Ashtadasha Puranas and all the Upapuranas, which are also 18. He wrote all the major Puranic literature we have is written by Vyasa. That Vyasa was not a very good looking fellow. So these daughters-in-law did not want to mate with him. One girl, the moment she saw him, she closed her eyes during the mating. That's why Dhritarashtra is born blind, because she was closing the eyes all through. The second daughter-in-law is also sent to Vyasa for mating, so that she'll get another son. The moment she saw him, she paled. Her face became white because he was such an ugly-looking fellow. And who was born? Pandu. Pandu was born. So he was a pale-looking man. So albino, what we call albino now, that albino color. So Pandu was born. And the third time when Vyasa, the Ambika was sent to Vyasa again, she refused to go. She sent instead her slave. That girl was fine with mating with Vyasa. She didn't think he was an ugly looking guy. So then was born Vidura. Vidura, the perfect gentleman, a perfect dharma, incarnation of dharma. Vidura was born. All these decisions Satyavati took on her own. Imagine the plight of a woman who is about to see that the whole clan is vanishing. Without a husband, without sons, no chance of her clan going further. That was when the decisions she took are all her own. So being a single mother, she did not even consult anyone. She didn't ask anyone. She only ordered Vyasa. In fact, she orders him. You come and mate these girls. He didn't even say no. He listened to his mother. And immediately he said, what have I got to do with your clan? He didn't say that. He came here, he obeyed her. And so we have Dhritarashtra and Pandu born. Without them, you won't have Kauravas and Pandavas. So the decisions these women had to take at crucial moments, they are so surprising. I mean, the more deeper we go into mythology, we see that the women held a lot of responsibilities, which are hardly ever acknowledged when you talk about mythology. When you talk about Itihasas, when you talk about Ramayana, we only mostly talk about Rama and how much Sita suffered, so that Rama and Ravana, their war, all the other things, Hanuman, and the friendship between the brothers. So all these things are common things. We all talk about them. And we talk about Ramarajya, which carries its inheritance to this day. Everybody uses Ramarajya as a favorite word. Hardly anybody knows what it was. So anyway, those are the things. But how did Sita bring up Lavakusha? Sita was an abandoned. See, we talk about Sita up to Agni Pravesham, or we talk later when she was abandoned in the forest by Rama. We feel pity for her. But it's not pity that we have to feel towards Sita. It's respect that we have to feel for her. Admiration for the way she conducted herself in every and any situation. Sita had to bring up her two kids. Of course, she was with Valmiki. She not only brought them up well, she only made them very brave, sensible. I mean, she always had in mind that these are going to be inheriting Rama's Rajya. So they will be the future Ayodhya rulers. She never forgot that. She knew that she will be a discarded element in that relationship. but still her sons have a right over it, so they are going to be there. So the way she brought up Lava and Kusha, you can see the way they hold themselves, the way they talk to others, they talk to elders, and the way they self-confidence they ooze in every conversation they make with Shatrughna and later Lakshmana. You can see that they have been inculcated with a lot of values and confidence and bravery and courage. All these things Sita inculcates in them. What does she do then? She was a single parent. She had to bring them up. Rama never bothered to find out how she is. He didn't even know he had 2 boys. Rama hardly even knew who. Sita was pregnant when he sent her to the forest. He had no idea who was born. But Sita brought them up, and after that, of course, you know the rest of the story. Lava and Kusha sing Ramayana. So that is how Valmiki starts it actually. So that's a different thing. But after completing her task, this is where Sita is different from all other single mothers. After completing her task, she goes and tells Rama that these are your sons. Again, Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, Uttarakanda, Rama again says, I just want you to take an oath that you have been pious during these years of abandonment. Even then, we all mostly know about that Agni Pariksha immediately after the war. That everybody knows, that story. But even after these 14 or 15 years of bringing up Lavakusha, when everybody tells, Valmiki says, I am bringing Sita and kids to your Ayodhya, then again, in that Sabha, Rama again asks, you just take an oath that you have been pious, sacred during these years. Sita says, okay, you want me to take the oath? Because you are my husband, I have to obey you, I'll say so. And in the same breath, while saying that, yes, I have remained sacred, pious, all these 14, 15 years. She says that, and the next sentence is, and now I want to go back to my mother. Immediately her mother, Bhudevi, comes and takes her away. Sita doesn't spend 1 second extra after giving up her kids to Rama. She has no intention of continuing her relationship with Rama any longer. She is one single mother who shows her defiance, her self-respect. In the last stage, when Rama expects that once she's come here, she'll take the oath and she'll come back to Ayodhya. She doesn't. She said, my duty is over. I have to bring up my kids. There's nobody there to bring up my kids. Only an old man, Valmiki, was there. So I'll bring up my kids. And now they are with their father. I have no role in their lives. My role is over. So I'll go back. And you all know that she goes back and Rama is left once again crying for what he did. But that's the end. So Sita takes herself, her duty as seriously as a single parent as anybody else. And after that, the difference between other mothers and Sita is that Sita feels that she has no need to stay back in this life. This life has no meaning for her. Meaning is gone. Once Lava and Kusha are given up to their father. Neither the father nor the kids can stop her from going away. So she has no sentiments left for either of them. So she leaves. Shakuntala, on the other hand, Shakuntala is abandoned by Dushyanta. She brings up with Kandava Maharshi, she brings up Bharata, and she goes there and argues with Dushyanta. Dushyanta, as usual, says, I don't know who you are, I don't know who this boy is. So you bring some boy to my house and say that he is your son, I won't believe you. Shakuntala could have cried or said something, then she simply says, you being a king, you should know that truth is the only thing that matters. A king who doesn't know what Satya is, who tells lies, has no right to be a king. So in case you feel that this boy is not your son, you come here, just hold him. Just hold him for 1 second. You will know the difference, whether that his touch is going to affect you or not. In fact, in Mahabharata, this sort of Sparsha Siddhanta, it's called Sparsha Siddhanta. In Telugu, it's a highly debated and argued and explained sentiment, you know. There's one sort of poetic techniques is called Sparsha. So that Sparsha, with that Sparsha, if you don't still realize he is your son, then I'll go back. You just come and embrace him once. Dushyanta does that and he's stunned. Then he knows that Bharata is son. Shakuntala challenges the dialogues of Shakuntala in Mahabharata Adi Parva when she talks to Dushyanta are something everybody should read. The confidence which she speaks and with the knowledge with which she speaks. So these, when you say that they are abandoned women having to bring up their own kids on their own, they are not like victims. They behave very self-righteously. They are very, very knowledgeable. They know what they are doing and they are proud of what they are doing. And when the time comes, they are ready to give up. That is something that is extraordinary in the mythology. Usually women giving up their kids could be to their husband only, like Sita or Shakuntala. They both give up only to their fathers only. Still, the detachment that comes with their attachment is something extraordinary. That is something probably, I think, in modern age, we cannot emulate, we cannot even understand. Some people can easily detach themselves, but they have a lot of attachment. These women are not like they are totally detached. No, they have a lot of attachment to their sons. But when it's time to give them up, when they think that they have no place in the father's life, only the kids have a place in the father's life, they give up their sons like Subhadra did, like Chitrangada did, like Hidimba did. They simply gave up their sons and their attachment was closed. They could be detached after that, which is an extraordinary way of portraying women characters. So there are so many things we can learn from this way these single mothers are portrayed in our midst. And I think probably the greatest single mother in Itihasas is Kunti. Kunti had to bear the worst facets of single mothership. Because when we know why Pandu died mainly because he had a curse. He should not have Sringara, should not mate with his wife. He'll die the moment he mates. During the mating, he'll die. So that's a curse he has. He knows that, Kunti knows that, his other wife Madri knows that. Still it happens because they are unable to control themselves, Madri and Pandu. So they are mating and he dies. The moment he dies, by that time what has happened is, Kunti was hoping that these 5 brothers, though they were all the time fighting with Duryodhana and others, there was this time when they were going to get Hastinapura and they were going to be able to rule at least a few towns. They would go back to their luxury, their riches. Till then they were in the forest. Just at that moment, for that Panduraju had to be alive. Once he dies, now Kunti knows that she has no hope. Her sons have no hope because their father died. And who is to claim from Dhritarashtra? Pandu should be alive to claim his part, his share in the Rajya. But then Dhritarashtra is very much alive. All his sons are alive. But Pandu died. So she has no stay. She has to stay in her mother-in-law's in-law's house, just taking care of all the old people or take care of her kids. That is when there is a question. Here there is a sort of a conflict because Kunti is the eldest wife. She should do the Sahagamana. She should be burnt on the pyre with her husband because she is the first wife. So Kunti says, I have to go for Sahagamana. That is when Madri stops her. She says, I have 2 reasons for asking you this. One is, I am the cause of his death. I provoked him. He couldn't control his attraction towards me. That's the reason he's dead now. Because I am the reason. I should be the person being burnt on the pyre with him. Second reason is much more important. The second reason Madri gives is, actually, I am not sure I can be a good mother. Well, you can be the perfect mother. You can take care of not only your 3 sons, Dharmaraja, Bhima and Arjuna, but my sons, Nakula and Sahadeva, with equal affection. Only you are capable of it. As a single mother, I will be a failure. But you will be a success because you have more sagacity, you are more intelligent, you are more worldly, and you have more patience. I want you to take care of my kids, so I will be burning myself. So she sits on the pyre and gets burnt, and Kunti takes care of all the 5 children equally. Kunti has the worst job because she has to take care of her kids and her another Savati's kids also. And apart from that, Kunti has one more secret, as everybody knows, Karna, whom she has abandoned. She had abandoned Karna when she was just a Kanya. She couldn't possibly, before marriage, she couldn't possibly have him. So she abandoned him. He is brought up somewhere. And then he was taken care of by one Radha. And then he came to Kauravas. And he is in the opposite party. So what does she do now? As a mother, she has to see that her original sons have to succeed in the war. Throughout Mahabharata, if you start from Adi Parva up to Udyoga Parva, if you see these 4 major Parvas, you see Kunti's role as being extremely instrumental. Satyavati's role stopped from there, Kunti's role started. Both were single mothers. Both had to take care of the kids. And Kunti, her command over her sons' lives was so high that sons never did a single thing without consulting her. So anything, she decided who eats how much. Even when they have to give everyday lunch to the people, she saw that Bhima got the biggest share. And the rest of the share was shared by the other 4 brothers. Because she said that Bhima is one guy who has to take care, who will be taking care of the whole family at any point of time. So he has to be more energetic. So he needs more food. Starting from there to when Draupadi is won in the Swayamvara and brought and saying that all of you share this. Everybody knows that story, I don't have to go into it. So all of them, Draupadi becomes the wife of all of them. She tells Draupadi the same thing. While you are being fair to everyone, at the same time, about food, but you have to take care because Bhima should get the bigger portion. That is something Draupadi also carries out for the rest. Later, at very, very crucial moments, it is Kunti's decision which actually alters the case of Kurukshetra war. Imagine Krishna. These are at least sons. They'll depend on Kunti. Krishna is just a nephew. But Krishna respected Kunti so much. He knew what his auntie had done. So Krishna comes and Krishna asks Kunti, what is your opinion? Should we go for war or should we go for an agreement? She said, war. We need war. I want my sons to kill all the Kauravas because of the insults we had to bear. So it is on Kunti's word and Draupadi's word for that matter later. That is when Pandavas decide, we don't want any agreements with them, no truce, we'll go for war. So Kunti is one lady till the end. She is with her sons. She even speaks to Karna. Karna, of course, says that I am not going to spare Pandavas. Maybe for your sake I'll spare Arjuna, but the rest I am going to kill. So she doesn't get any respect from Karna. She is the biggest tragic figure among single mothers in the Itihasas. Because at the last moment, Dharmaraja says, because you kept a secret about Karna being our brother for such a long time, I am going to give a curse to all womanhood. Women can never keep secrets. This is the curse Dharmaraja gives Kunti, which is supposed to be prevalent even now. So this is the sort of women can never hide secrets. They'll have to blurt it out to somebody. That's because of Kunti. Dharmaraja gives her a curse. So she's actually misinterpreted, not understood, misunderstood by her own sons. So at the end of the story, you can see in Mahabharata, she doesn't, when they regain the property, the kingdom, that she could have happily lived there. She said, I am going into the forest. She goes away into the forest. Kunti never stays with her sons after they are successful. When they were suffering, she was with them. When they became successful, she left them. She goes to the... So these mothers, when we look at these mothers from mythology, if we think of each of them, you can write a book on each of them actually, if anybody wants to write a new novel or something. And what do they teach to the modern women? That's the only point I'll make and I'll wind up. How do we modern women look at the achievements of these single women in Itihasas? We see that they never considered themselves victims. The problem with present society is that everybody is a victim. Everybody wants to be a victim. People like being victimized. I mean, they revel in that emotion. So that is something. Women, single parents need not, single mothers, need not feel they are victims at all. And another thing is, they should have the courage and self-confidence to bring up their children as all our mythical figures have done. We do read mythology, but I think we read them for most of the time wrong reasons. So once we start trying adapting what values these mothers have taught us, the present modern women, this 4.5% that are in India now, they can also gain a lot of wisdom into how happily, cheerfully, and efficiently we can be single mothers. Thank you for the opportunity.
It is with immense happiness that I presented this memento to Dr. C. MRUNALINI. You have been listening to an excellent speech. She never bothered to get confined to the parameters of the usual way in which one presents Itihasa interpretation. She transcended it, and she has been treading to the realms of creativity. Actually, it was not a speech, but it was a creative presentation, creative interpretation of what Itihasas are meant to us. So kind of you, thank you. The most excellent speech that we have been listening to in these sessions, and we are grateful to you. Once again, thanks.
Thank you all very much for your very patient hearing. I hope to be once more attending your seminars and sharing more with you. Thank you.